So good evening and welcome to Glory House International Ministries. So this is our Wednesday night roundtable, which we've been doing since the pandemic started. We just come to you live. Actually, Wednesdays is not the only night, but Wednesdays is a time of discussion. And we welcome you, whoever is tuning in tonight. We are grateful to have you tuning in to us, and we just pray that tonight will bless you, that we will, have a message for somebody out there that is going to bless them. So tonight, our topic is fear. Fear, anxiety, and everything that kind of goes with it, especially in the season that we're in right now, the last few months. We know that fear, even before that, is like an epidemic. It's pervasive, and it's just kind of all over the place. And the common bond that these four women have is they have all been partaking of a class that I teach. I teach it here at our church once a year in the fall, and I also teach it on a Facebook Live platform. It's called Reclaiming Peace, and it helps people to break free from the fear and the anxiety, something I struggled with for 25 years. Now I've been free for 23, and that's kind of why I get the honor of being chosen. So just to go around really quick, I'm going to have each of you guys just introduce yourselves. And we'll start right there with Sarah.
Hi there. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Dilly, and I'm glad to be here.
My name is Melissa Malt.
And Sarah, actually, you come to the church.
I'm a member.
Melissa's been here now a few weeks in a row. Melissa's my niece. Go ahead, sorry.
I'm Debbie Kirby, and yes, I attend this church.
Pretty much everybody knows me, if you don't know me by now. But I am Noelle. I'm Pastor Kevin's daughter, and I also am the young adult leader at the church.
Yeah. So that's our panel, if you will, tonight. And like I said, we've all got that bond of we've all dealt with different varying degrees of fear and anxiety, some of us some panic and depression, maybe things like that. So we're gonna discuss some things tonight. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the first question, and we will start with Noelle. And the first question is going to be, everybody's going to get a chance to answer this question, is just going to be, just kind of briefly, what was your struggle with fear? In a nutshell, maybe how it originated or whatever, and just kind of explain where it was and where it took you, kind of.
So my experience with fear and anxiety kind of started, I'd say between my junior and senior year of high school. We, as a family, were deeply hurt by a church, and that kind of set some roots that I didn't know had actually been set. And so after that, I started to experience mainly it was starting to feel very alone and very secluded and very, I didn't have the people that I thought I had in my life. Mm-hmm. And so from that, it kind of branched into I would get panic attacks, but it was normally when I would let things build up to a just massive breaking point. I really wasn't somebody that on a day-to-day basis was scared often. It was more things would build up, and then I'd have a massive panic attack that would have me down for a couple days, and then I would just move on, because that's what we do. We just move on, and we try to pretend like it didn't happen. But I really struggled with that all the way through my college years, and actually didn't really start to break a lot of it until my last semester while I was out in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And I had a massive panic attack while I was out there, and and I knew it was something that I needed to deal with right now, because it was triggered by something that was just completely random. I had finished a TV series, And it just, I don't know what it was, but it triggered a huge panic attack, and it scared the living daylights out of my roommate. She had no idea what was happening, and she didn't even know that I had struggled with it because I didn't tell anyone. The only person that knew was my mom and then Heidi when I started talking to you. And so I started working with one of the pastors in Hawaii to kind of start breaking things and figuring out where the roots were. And then when I came home, I decided to take your class because I wanted more like focus on like, well, how can I deal with things day to day and not just like when they explode.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's kind of where I was. It was just more of it would come up out of nowhere normally and just grip me for a couple days, and I wouldn't want to be around anybody or talk to anybody, and it was not a fun way to live life.
Yeah, amen. We know that for certain. Thank you. So Deb, take us through your journey through all
Well,
of
mine
that.
probably started when I was very young. I can't give you an exact time, but I had to be very young. I've always been introverted, and that just turned into fear. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of people, places, crowds, and the panic attacks, in the middle of a grocery store. Oh, I'm out of here, Zoom.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
craziness. And it was, I can't say that it was constant, but it was close. It was close to being constant. And because of that, then I tried to medicate myself with drinking and drugging and, just to calm down. So, but that just made it worse, which
Right.
I didn't realize. So it was just this endless cycle. It was not good. To live in fear and, to be in even with, a group like this, I would be, scared.
Right.
I would lock myself in my home. I wouldn't want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It was very debilitating.
And
Very.
it is. And it is.
Yeah.
And you've gotten to a place where you're not so.
Oh, no, I'm
Fearful.
not like that
Yeah.
anymore. No. No, Jesus got a hold of me. And, yeah, and I ended up being on a lot of medication also because of all of that. But Jesus got a hold of me, and then I found, and then I was fine for the longest time, years. And then I don't know what it was. It just started kind of, and then Heidi, a class. Oh, yes, go. So I went, just because I'm not
grateful.
going back there.
Amen.
No
Amen.
way.
Yep. Yep.
I do not want to go back there. I don't have to go back there.
Absolutely.
That's the key. I don't have to.
Absolutely. And that's a word for somebody maybe out there.
Yes, you do not
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
Don't have to.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Debbie. All right, Melissa, take us.
Well, a lot of things
Yeah.
had me. Mine was stemmed from like abuse from my father, and it went back from 5th grade all the way. Didn't really hit much until my junior year of high school. I missed like half my junior year. I stayed in bed. I would not eat. I only ate on certain occasions. I slept all the time. It's like the teachers had to literally, help me once I came back to school to get caught up and stuff so that I could graduate with my class. And it was not good. But then I went to Cadillac and stayed there for a while, and then I came back. And then it got even worse. And I noticed, and then it was like I couldn't get in cars. I couldn't do anything without crying all the time and calling you. I would always call Aunt Heidi, oh my goodness, I can't do this, I can't do that. you know, and she would always calm me down, and it just got really, really bad. And then you came up with the program, and we would work on it every single day
Yeah.
until finally, it took like 3 times, because I don't know if the first 2 times, if it was that I wasn't focusing on it enough, or that I wasn't applying it to myself.
I think it was focus. And I'm interjecting with Melissa because she is my niece and I did work with her. But Melissa,
Exactly.
tell them how many medications you were on at that point in
12.
time.
12 medications.
Yeah. And this was as little as 3 years ago.
And now I'm down to like 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Even 3 years ago. Melissa was in bed, right? Not a really, I can say, and you're okay, not able to function.
Right.
You really were not able to function whatsoever. So, you know, so that's a big thing about what we're here for tonight is to just, each one of them, just to give you hope, you know, just that you can, you know, you can take something from each person and just go, wow. The biggest thing, like if they can do this, if they can, you know, yeah. So, yep. Is there anything else you want to add to it? No? Sarah, take us through your journey with fear.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief. I just remember a lot as a child being very fearful, waking up in the middle of the night, having bad dreams, waking up my mom, you know, sleeping with my mom. Then as I got older, I'd have like night terrors. I would, you know, sleepwalk and just all kinds of stuff where I just had so much fear and I had so much anxiety and worry and dread and stress and all these things, even, you know, as a younger person. Kind of type A, kind of high strung, and then, you know, kind of go through high school and go through things like that. And it was kind of like I really can relate with Debbie because it's like I would be so kind of hyper, and then I would want to, you know, medicate myself, have some alcohol or something to kind of bring me down, or if I'm down, I want to maybe go up or whatever. And so I just had a lot of, my whole thing was what if? What if this happens? What's the worst case scenario? Let me go to the worst case scenario so it can only get better. And then, you know, I would just come up with all these things in my mind, like, and I would worry about, and worry is the biggest one, where I would just worry incessantly about things, and about things that never even happened, you know? And I would just, all the time, it was just, these things would just bother me. And so, and then as I got older, and then I was in a really abusive relationship with someone, and that added more fear onto the you know, equation, where it was just like, oh, what's going to happen today? Oh, like I don't know what mood he's in, what's going to happen, you know, and just different things like that. And then it's kind of like Debbie said, you know, so it's almost like you just keep on adding fuel to the fire. So, you know, so then you're drinking and you're doing this and you're doing that and you're using drugs, and then it's making you feel worse, and then it, you know, it's like that, and like she said, that cycle, like you feel like you're in this cycle that you just can't get out of, you know.
Amen.
And you think, oh, can I ever change? Are things ever going to get better for me? And, you know, is this my lot in life? Is this just the way it's going to be? You know, and I've heard a lot of people say, oh, you know, that's just the way it is. That's just the way I am, and you know, that's it, you know, and I just remember at my absolute lowest point in my life, it was like, okay, it's time to go back home.
Right.
You know, it's time to get back with the Lord and get your life on track, Sarah. I mean, because it was a train wreck. And so, you know, I grew up in the church. I knew about the Lord my whole life, and I got this huge rebellion in my teenage years, and then it just kind of escalated. And so when I finally was ready and God got a hold of me with a whole bunch of different instances, it was like I knew where to go. I knew where to come. I knew where my help was. I knew who I could turn to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
so I am very thankful. And this October, I have 15 years of continuous sobriety, and I give
Awesome.
all the credit to God.
Awesome.
God is
Awesome.
the only thing, my rock, my foundation, that has kept me and keeps me daily.
Amen.
So that's
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. And I'll say too, to me, like a foundational verse, and I think you guys are going to agree with this, is 2 Timothy 1:7, which says that God has not given us that spirit of fear, and that's something that I really want to reiterate. It's not God that dishes out that spirit of fear. To me, it gets in there. It's like to me, it's not so important that we try to figure out all the reasons why. It's like, to me, that spirit of fear gets in somehow, because I'm with you. I was young. I feel like I came out of the chute, like in fear. And, it comes from the enemy. And the enemy doesn't care who he preys on. He doesn't care. And I feel like, we have that spirit of fear. And if we even give him an inch, and unknowingly and unwittingly, that we know, we open the door, sometimes that spirit gets in there. And we don't mean to do it, but once it gets opened, like you say, it's like a snowball, and it keeps going. And that was my pervasive thing too, was what if, and it's torment. I think you can all agree, it's torment. It's like slice open my head and you'll see a scrambled up mess when I was going through this, definitely. So the next question I want to ask you guys is, what was how do I want to say this? What was one of the things that you felt in your mind, like, what if I, like you kind of said, like, what if I never get over that? What if I stay? What was something you felt like at times, like you felt like, I just don't think this is ever going to change, or I just don't, like, to pinpoint, like, I just feel. Do you understand, kind of get what I'm saying? Like, what was something that you were so fearful of that wouldn't change, that wasn't going to ever be able to change for you? Anybody want to start, like, with that question? Like, say, do you like? Was there something in your mind that said, I don't think at times I don't think this is ever going to change,
Right.
or?
Right.
Were you set on?
A sort of an example is that, being in a bad relationship, it was like the devil just kind of put a fear in me, that I was never gonna, no one was ever gonna love me. I was never gonna find, and just like all this kind of just worries and fears and all these different things, and he was wrong, and I prayed for a husband, and the good Lord provided, so I mean that's one example, but I think there's just so many things, even minor things that you can really worry about and bother you, and nobody, like Noelle said, like, no one knows about it,
Right,
but
right.
it's something, it's like an internal, like you say, torment. It really is. I mean, it's like if you knew what was going on up here,
Exactly.
it's not a lot of fun, okay?
Exactly.
But the devil tries to convince you that
Right.
you can't do things,
Right.
or that things won't change, and this is your lot in life. And that's what I felt for a lot of years, And so
Yeah.
I'm so thankful, and that's why I really want to be here, because I am so thankful, because of God, because of Jesus Christ, that things did turn around, that I didn't have to
Right.
just keep going that way.
Right.
I didn't have to keep on keeping on. Like every day I'm like, if I can just get through another day.
Right.
Oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Like Debbie Downer, just like everything's wrong, everything's bad, and everyone's against me, and it just kind of is for me, a snowball that turns into an avalanche.
Right.
Every
Right.
time. So
Were any of you, and please hear my heart here. I'm not putting down the medical community or well-meaning people or well-meaning friends, but can any of you remember, like, kind of being told, like, maybe, hey, you're going to have to be on medication forever, or you're going to,
Yes.
any of you, or friends or people that would, maybe say, well, so-and-so's dealt with that, and, they've never gotten better, or, hey, this was, that's something that you remember?
Yes. Yeah, I've been in a lot of counseling, and they're like, well, this is what happens, and especially going to, like, people with being on medication and stuff, and they're always like, well, you're going to be on medicine for the rest of your life, so this is what you're going to take, and this is, especially for, like, anxiety. They're always like, well, this is what you deal with it with, and this is what you do, and this is what you're going to take, and you're going to take this for the rest of your life, and all this stuff. And it's like, if I could look at them now, I'd be like, ha, you know?
Right. But at the time you
Right, I
you
believed
believe
it. I was like, oh, I don't want to be on the medicine for the
Right.
rest of my life.
I think most of, and probably you guys too, what were you doing, like, for instance, like the program, this Reclaiming Peace program, I want to show people to break free. Does that mean you'll never ever have a twinge of fear? No, you'll have that, but you have the tools that are from God, that are
Exactly.
basic, that help you nip it, right? Because before that, what are you doing? You're coping, right? And at times,
Barely coping.
were any of you like in that mode of thinking, this is how it's going to be? Like, I'm just going to have to cope with this. Was that ever in your mind, thinking, this is, like, I've learned how to cope with it. This is it. Did you ever
I don't
think
know
that
if
way?
I ever thought that. I know I guess I just accepted the fact where I was, but like I said, it snowballed, and I got to the point, and I'm not proud of this, but I got to the point where one night my anxiety was so bad. It gets to the point, it wasn't a panic attack, but I felt like I was going to come out of my skin. I don't know how else to describe it. It was terrible. But I tried to commit suicide because I was to the point where I cannot live like this.
Yeah.
I just could not do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it anymore. And because it was horrible, just a horrible thing.
absolutely.
The fear,
It's like hell. It's
Oh,
like
it
hell on
is.
earth.
It
If there's a
is.
hell, yeah, to me.
And I've had problems with depression and other things, but it had nothing to do with depression. It had to do with this.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted out. I wanted it to stop.
Yeah.
And that
Did
was
any of you,
Yes.
I know, I always think, I'm always kind of of the mindset to say, like, it's not that I don't want to live, it's that I don't want to live like this anymore.
That's
Right.
it.
That's what I
That's
always feel like. It's not really
can't.
that I don't want to
Yeah, you
live.
don't.
I just don't, I just don't want to live. Did any, and I'm, I think this is something to address because it gets bad. It
Yeah.
gets bad. How many of you guys were ever, like, it was in your mind ever? Like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to. It was in my mind at
Yeah.
times. I don't want to live like this, but I wasn't gonna. Yeah,
I have. I've been
yeah,
hospitalized for it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I even cut on myself too for self-mutilation, for feeling anxious and stuff, and for I know I cut on myself because I felt like I needed to feel if I was real or not.
Right.
The pain, sometimes the pain was so bad that I was feeling that I needed to know if I could feel
Right.
anything but pain,
Yeah.
that emotional pain.
Isn't that something? And that's just torment. It just is. Noelle, did you ever have that sense of, is this just it? Is this, like, I've gotten so used to this, I guess this is my deal? Or
Yeah.
was that ever?
I definitely, especially right before I left to go to Hawaii, because I had lived out of my family house. Like, I had lived on my own before, but this was going to be the first time that I was not only moving out, but I was moving thousands of miles
Yeah.
away with no, like, my dad or mom couldn't just get in a car and come get me.
Sure.
Like, this was like, I was, and yeah, and so, like, right before that, my anxiety really got bad, and I still sometimes do this. I got to a point where, like, I pick at my fingers and my hands, and because it's something that I can control, and it's actually the first time I've ever told anybody that, but somebody needs to hear that, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But so I, like, by the time I got to Hawaii, I had Band-Aids on every finger because I was just a stressed out mess, and I had never met the people that were picking me up on the other end
Sure.
of the flight.
I give you credit for going.
And yeah.
Yeah.
I thank God every day that He created me with the, like, hard-headedness that He created me with, because that's what forced me to get on the plane. Was I chose to listen to that more than I was listening to the fear at that point, because everybody kept telling me, "Are you sure you can do this? I don't know if you're going to actually do this." And I got on the plane, and so, like, for me, it was, I hit a point where I didn't want every time I was going to try to do something new or something adventurous for it to be precedented by, well, how terrified am I going to be while doing it?
Right.
Because I love to travel and I love to do new things and I love to experience new things, but it always came with,
What if?
okay, well,
right?
yeah, and like,
Yeah.
and how terrified can I be? Am I gonna throw up while I do this?
Yeah.
Like, there
How
were
bad is it
just
gonna get?
so many things, like, because for me, there was just more physical, like, the whole plane ride, I was just eaten up inside. Like, I didn't want to be on the plane, and like, I think I actually kind of freaked out the lady next to me because I started crying at one point and I wasn't stopping, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine, it's okay." Like, but like, I chose to do things like picking at my hangnails and stuff because it was something that I could control
It was-
while I was
right.
terrified.
Or
So,
distraction. I don't know. I
Yeah,
learned,
major,
you know,
yeah, distraction.
I remember in church, I'm grabbing my purse and I'm doing this and I'm getting candy and I'm looking at the bulletin and I'm just anything to just momentarily
Yeah.
distract yourself from how you're
Yeah.
feeling, and you just feel like that's my life now, right?
Yeah.
That's what I need to do. And I think we don't, at least years ago, we didn't hear about people really who broke free from that. It
Right.
was let's cope, let's learn how to live with it as best we can. But our God says nothing is impossible, right?
Right.
To those who believe, and He can totally change that spirit of fear. We pluck it at the root and get it out. So.
Amen.
Now we're going to fast forward to like kind of now. So what I want to ask you guys individually is, during, at this point in your life, especially with the things that have gone on since March, pandemic, riots, all this stuff that's gone on, how have you coped with that? Not, I don't want to say cope, but how have you dealt with that? If there has been some fear during it, what did you do in order, to get yourself back, to a place of not fearing, or maybe you haven't felt fear at all through it. And if you haven't, and you used to be so fearful, what did you do? What did you do to ground yourself, during this time? How about we start with Deb?
Okay, well, this time, it's funny. I was just sharing with Heidi earlier the COVID thing. I don't know. I just didn't bother me. I just knew. Somehow I think when you have that relationship with the Lord, you just know. I knew everything was going to be okay, and it is going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. But when I deal with other things that cause fear, and well, I don't know if I would say fear. Fear is very strong. I mean, for me at this point. I mean, before, yes, terrible fear. But the anxiousness, is this going to come up, right? But, I guess I just have to know that God is going to take care of it. And that verse, I repeat that verse all the time. God has not given us a spirit of fear.
Power, love, and a sound mind.
I just get into the Word, and the Psalms are an excellent source for. That's where I started. When I began my journey, I started in the Psalms. So I go back to that.
Yeah.
I go back to the Psalms. There's so much strength in the Psalms. And, just talking to people, because I would never talk to people before. I was so introverted and so scared, and so I was afraid of people. So I would never talk to anybody about anything, just nothing. But now I can. I can go to somebody and I can say, hey, I'm not doing too well. I'm, and I can work through things.
Right.
I don't have that fear of people or situations or anything.
And is there a fear ever anymore of going back, or it's like, no, I've been there, I'm not going back?
There is,
Because the enemy likes to,
when
when a little fear comes up.
When that fear comes up, I think, I ain't going back there. That that's I'm not.
Amen.
And there have been times when I have thought of that. When I've thought, oh my gosh, I'm going down. And I'm like, no. I mean, I get angry. You know, I'm
Amen.
like, no, I
Amen.
can't do that.
And it's
Oh,
important what comes out of your mouth, right? You guys, when
Yes.
you're feeling that fear and you're
Yes.
feeling it's so important to speak life and to speak, to
And even
like
in
you
your
said that
brain,
verse and
things
right,
that go
exactly.
on. The Bible says, take every thought captive.
Right.
I tell you, and some depending on how well I'm doing, I can go a while. Sometimes I can catch it immediately, and oh no. And other times I'll go on and I'm like, oh, no. Yeah, I
Right.
bet you don't realize you're going there. That your
Exactly.
mind is doing that. So you have to immediately grab a hold of it and no,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Amen.
I take things and I put them to the cross. Or
Amen.
He's not giving me a spirit of fear, and
Yeah.
greater is He that
It's
is
powerful.
in me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those things, yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will.
Amen.
Yeah, it's all up to you.
So Noelle, how about you? Through this period, or now in your life where you are at, and really during this uncertain, period in our.
So I definitely I've dealt with, well, I thought that I had dealt with pretty much everything that was major that was causing anxiety to come up in my life. And but I'm also very, I don't like to say the word busy because I'm not busy, but I like to keep myself busy. And so I didn't really realize until quarantine that there was one major thing that I just had not dealt with. And for me, I'm working on it now with God, and quarantine has been a major blessing because it's walked me through another healing point. But I deal majorly with not being okay with being alone. I have a very, very, very hard time with being in a room by myself, with being or in a room full of people that are not talking to me. I have I do not want to be alone. That is what I'm now seeing is the biggest fear in my life. And so when quarantine came up and I'm being told that I can't go visit people, I can't go into stores, I can't go talk to people, I can't do half the things that I could do. I got laid off, so I wasn't doing my
Right.
job, so I wasn't around people all the time. And I had one night where I had to go for a drive and just get out of my house, and I drove for almost 3 hours. And I just had worship music on and was just talking to God, and I was just okay, I didn't know that this was a problem, but now I do. So I need this to I need to figure out how to be okay with being alone. And it was even to the point where I was terrified of being alone even with God, because I didn't know what God was going to say if I was alone with him, because I knew there were a lot of things in my life recently that just they're not bad things, but just I wasn't spending enough time in the Word, and I wasn't praying enough, and I wasn't doing things that I knew would stop things like this from happening. Right. But I was too afraid to sit down with God and just say, okay, so what am I doing wrong? Because it's not God. We said it's not. He doesn't give us a spirit of fear. And in my case, it's mainly my fault because I am just not doing things that I need to do in order to overcome them. And so I took a couple days and intentionally made myself be alone with God. And it of course did wonders. It was amazing and it was great. And so now I'm getting more and more comfortable with the idea of being alone, because for a long time I was really happy with that. I was okay with being by myself and doing my own thing. But recently it's just kind of come back in a circle where I just do not want to be by myself. And so just figuring out where the roots are in that, and God has been very faithful to show me those things, but only because I asked, because he's never going to force it on you. He's never going to say, no, sit down, we're going to rip these out. Which is what I really like, because I have never been the person where like you can just sit me down and be like, this is what you're gonna do, because it doesn't work. I don't function well like that.
Yeah.
So, but it's been really good. Quarantine has actually been a refining time for me
Yeah.
instead of like, yeah. But it is hard because I'm an extrovert, so I love to talk to people, and so quarantine was like, no.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it was a good time,
Yes.
like you said, to learn that. If it's going to be a time to learn that, and God gently gets you back. Yeah, never condemns, never,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd
Yeah.
rather learn hard lessons while I have nothing going on
Right.
than while everything in my life is going on.
Right, exactly.
So I'd much rather learn this lesson here than when I get back into work and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Melissa, how about you? During now, in you know where you're at in your life, and during this time.
Well, at first, I was kind of like, but then, some parts, I didn't understand, and so it was a little scary. But then I got into the Word, and I would focus more on that than I would anything. And then, like before, I know I would have been terrified. I would have been
I know that
really
too.
terrified. And now it's just, if I'm scared, I talk to God. I tell him everything. And like when I wake up in the morning, I talk to him. I thank him for, waking me up in the morning. I thank him for my house, my cats, my husband. I thank him for my family. And I get in the Word, and if I get scared, I go in the Word, and
Right.
or I call a friend. And throughout the day, if I'm lonely, I try to, touch bases with friends and see how they're doing. And, like talk to them and see how they're doing through all of this, because I know there's a lot of people who don't get to go out and do things.
Right. And that, Melissa just brought up a really good point that, when you're dealing with stuff, if you're dealing with some fear, depression, things like that, you're not a selfish person, I want to hear, but you focus on yourself when you're dealing with fear and anxiety and depression, right? You don't really realize that, but you're focused, what's going to happen? What if this? What if that? So doing something for somebody else is a big deal. That's a really huge way. Like you said, let's call, I'm feeling anxious, but I'm going to call and see if somebody else is feeling it, because it does, even if it's momentary, it takes the focus off of you, and puts it onto somebody else too. And that's a very good thing. So yeah, you've come a long way from 3 years ago, bedridden, not doing anything, to, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Sarah, how about you during this whole time? And
Well, I think I might have a little bit of a different perspective because I work in a doctor's office. I work through the whole thing. I don't have the news at home. We don't have like traditional cable.
Right.
And so I really didn't watch the news, and I really just didn't buy into it. I think that the media was really trying to create the fear
Right,
in people
right.
and get everybody just so, absolutely panicked, which happened. It
yeah.
totally happened. I mean,
Yeah.
people went out there buying out of everything. There was
Yeah,
nothing in the
absolutely.
store. It was like
Absolutely.
a nightmare. But I really just kind of, and it's like what Debbie said. It's like, what? I said, Lord, if this is it, I'm ready to go. I am ready to go. This body could use an upgrade. Let's go. Just kidding. Just kidding. But,
Yeah.
I just said,
I know
Lord,
what you're
if
saying.
it's your will, it's your will. And I think a lot of times, too, when fear and all those dread and worry and stress all want to kind of pound on top of me, I have to really focus on what do I have control of in this situation, and just focus on, okay, Sarah, let's try to not overreact, hit the panic button, let's just take a step back and kind of, look at this from a different perspective. I think a lot of times it's all about perspective. You can look at a problem, in all different kind of ways, and then sometimes and the thing that's cool about the Lord is sometimes he'll give you a different perspective on something. Like he'll
Right.
have, this and that and all these problems and obstacles, but then the Lord will kind of give you this different view, and you're like, oh, I never thought of it like that, or I never saw it that way, or wow, that makes more sense,
Right.
But again, too, and the Lord did say to me, he said, Sarah, he said, I need you to get out of Facebook and get into my book.
Yeah.
And that was a stinger. That was a stinger. But it was true, I really, the more that I put my focus on him and I put my focus in the word and trying to grow, the less I deal with things like that. But the more I'm goofing around and I'm going through all these, meaningless information, just kind of zoned out, and then it's kind of like, okay, then I feel like then, seeds can get planted and you can see something or read something or someone or whatever.
Right,
And then it
exactly.
just starts
Exactly.
the process.
Yes. So all of you would agree that it's really important if you're dealing with fear, if you're dealing with, to really be aware of what you're putting into your mind,
Yes.
what you're watching, what you're listening to, who you're
yes.
talking to, what
Right.
you're, to not feed, what's there.
It's so easy to feed it.
Right, especially now, in this day and
Yes.
age too, where, all kinds of information and all kinds of, so you can really be selective, obviously selective on what you watch, you're listening to, like you said, not having, but also when you're going through fear, I know I used to tell you that too, it's like if somebody, your husband even sometimes, hey, I want to watch this or I want to, you've got to guard and protect your mind, and you're the
Yes.
only one that can do that, to be able to say, I really don't want to talk about that right now, or I really don't, want to listen to conversation like this right now.
Right.
We're the only ones, that can do that. So just really briefly, we've got maybe 5-7-ish minutes or whatever. So just real briefly, each of you, compared to where you were years ago, where are you, like, hey, things are so much better, things are, just to be able to give the people that are watching, some hope and some encouragement, Sarah, go ahead.
Well, I definitely would say that, I haven't arrived. I haven't, I'm definitely a work in progress. I always say, God's the potter, I'm the clay. There's a lot of rough edges. There's a lot of cracks. There's a lot of things there. But I am a work in progress. I'm under construction, and things are so much better than they were 15 years
Amen.
ago, and things are so much better than they were 5 years ago. And
Yes.
so, it's like a lot of times those things would come up, and it would just knock you right down for
Right.
a long period of time. And now it's like, okay, I don't have to beat myself up for 3 days. I can move on.
Right.
God forgives me, He loves me. I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go forward.
Right.
And
Amen.
change my focus.
Awesome.
Amen.
So there's
Thanks.
always hope.
Amen.
Always
Yes.
hope, right?
Yes.
Melissa.
Like
we just
Sarah
said, yeah.
Like Sarah said, there's always, it doesn't take as long to get through it. You do get them every once in a while, but you can work through them better.
Right. And quicker.
And quicker.
Right. Yep.
And I'm much better than what I was 3 years
Amen.
ago.
Amen. Seriously, you guys, if you would, I've seen it, but if you would have seen this girl, I'll tell you, there's, and I did, and I did,
Yeah.
Melissa, and it was, so there's so much hope if you guys are dealing
yeah.
with fear, if there's people, there's so much hope, it's never ever hopeless, never ever hopeless. Go ahead, Deb, kind of where you used to be, where
Well,
you
it's
are
like,
now.
it's like night and day.
Yeah.
It truly is. It's like night and day. I look forward to things. I mean, stuff always comes up. There's always things that come up, and like Sarah said, you never arrive. You're always it's always a work in progress, and the Lord just slowly, you get through one thing, and then He's okay. We're going to work on this now. Okay. It used to be no.
Right. Right.
I'm just scared to death.
And it's
but-
not knocking you
No,
down anymore,
no, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
There's, it used to be like this,
Right.
now it's like this, but there's so much, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's just really
Awesome.
a huge difference.
Awesome. How about you? Oh, well.
For me, it's totally different because I went from like weekly being like having a blow up point to, I mean, I went years until a plague happened. It takes a boatload of things now for me to even consider being like anxious about anything. I went from like worrying about like everyday decisions Like, oh,
Right.
is this going to result in me erupting later, or is this a good decision? Now it's like, it literally took quarantine and literally everything in my life coming to a halt before like it stirred something up in me. And like, and even this time it was something that I could 100% handle because I was walking with God in it and not just trying to deal with it and
Figure it out
squash
or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So it's a huge difference.
Awesome.
I don't worry about small decisions anymore and how they're going to affect things. It's just a part of life. I don't freak out anymore about the little things.
Amen.
So
Yeah. So it's like you could say that you all have the tools. You know, there's tools, and that's what comes from God, right? God gives us practical wisdom to overcome and to put into practice so that we don't have to live in that spirit of fear, so that we don't have to live daily, so that we can say, you know, we got power, we got love, and we got a sound mind,
Yes.
you know? So anyways, that was our deal tonight, and I am so grateful for all of you being on here with me. And I think Connor is going to put a link, reclaimingpeace.com.
Yes.
It's a website if you guys want to go to it. It's dedicated to those who are dealing with fear, anxiety, and panic attacks. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be teaching a class here in the fall again. You don't have to live with that, you guys. You know, God has not given you that spirit of fear, and I'll tell you can pluck it out at the root and not be living in that torment and that fear. And also, this Sunday, right, our doors are going to be open. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing? Am I right? Okay.
Officially open.
I'm my lovely pastor and his wife are right down here. So if your church doors are still closed and hey, everybody's doing what they're, then come and visit us. 10 o'clock. Glory House International Ministries. I don't know the street address, you guys.
3660 Hermansaw
3660 Hermansaw here in Saginaw. It's an amazing worship experience. You guys, we're going, we've got the hand sanitizers. We've got, not every other row is so we're ensuring, your safety health-wise. And we got the blood of Jesus that covers this place too, guys. From head to toe, all around, and the protective power of the blood of Jesus that covers everybody that comes in, right? So come and worship with us. And I won't be here. The first, yeah, we have to take our son back to Texas tomorrow, and we'll be. But anyway, come and worship with all these wonderful people, and So, thank you for joining us tonight. We're grateful for you who are listening, or maybe you're going to listen to the replay. And thank you.